The Profiler firmware version 8.5 and higher supports the Rig Manager for iOS, with which you can now edit the Profiler via an iPad. The Rig Manager for iOS can be downloaded for free from the Apple App Store. To control a Profiler head or rack via the iPad with the Rig Manager iOS, you need to set up a network where the Profiler is connected to your router via an Ethernet cable. Of course, the iPad also needs to be integrated into this network. You can select your network under WLAN in the network settings of your iPad. Now start Rig Manager on your iPad. The app will search for the connected Profiler and connect to it automatically, and you can then edit the Profiler via the iPad. The Profiler stage can be connected to the iPad in two ways. In Home Network mode, the Profiler stage is connected to the router with a wireless network via WLAN. This mode is recommended if you have a stable and trustworthy WLAN network available and you want the iPad to stay connected to the Internet. To connect the Profiler stage to your router, press the System button and go to the Wi-Fi settings page. Activate the Wi-Fi connection with soft button 1, and then select the Home Network mode with soft button 4. To establish the connection between the Profiler stage and router, you have to press the WPS button on the router. Depending on the provider, there are different ways how long the button has to be pressed. You can find this information in the manual of your router. When you have pressed the WPS button on the router, go to the Profiler stage and press soft button 2, WPS. It can take up to a minute for the connection to be established. Once your iPad is connected to the same network, you can launch the Rig Manager app. After a brief moment, the connection with the Profiler stage will be fully established and you can now edit on the iPad. Of course, you can also connect the iPad directly to the Profiler stage via WLAN. This is the easiest solution because no additional device is needed. Press the System button and go to the Wi-Fi settings page. Then activate the Wi-Fi function with soft button 1 and press soft button 3, Access Point mode. Now the display shows the name and the password. On the right-hand side, there is a QR code. The easiest way to connect the iPad to the Profiler stage is to open the camera app of the iPad and point it at the QR code. You'll then see the message Connect to Network Profiler Stage on the top of the screen. Alternatively, you can select the Profiler stage in the settings of the iPad under WLAN and enter the password that is shown in the display of the Profiler stage. You can now start the Rig Manager app. After a short moment, the connection with the Profiler stage is completely established and you can edit on the iPad. After the initial connection between the Profiler and the iPad, the connection will be established automatically from now on. You won't have to enter the password anymore. The Rig Manager on the iPad shows the name of the rig at the top and the signal chain below it. The layout is similar to the desktop version of the Rig Manager. In the middle, you will find the amp and cabinet. To the left are the 4 stomp modules A to D, and to the right are 4 more effect modules placed after the amp and cab. On the far left side, you will find the generic settings for the selected rig, and next to it is the input menu. The output menu can be selected on the far right. By tapping on the effect modules, the respective settings are displayed below. If you want to change a parameter, move your finger to the corresponding slider and then drag it up or down, depending on how you want to change the value. If you want to see the complete display, the slider and the specified value, then place your finger on the slider and move it to the side while your finger is still touching the surface. Then move it up or down again. The further you move your finger away from the slider, the finer the steps of the slider change. Switch functions are changed by tapping. For settings with multiple options, like for example in the Output menu, a selection menu opens when you tap the button. If you want to load an effect into an effect module, tap on the corresponding module and then tap on the left field in the bar below the signal chain. The effect categories are displayed in a selection menu. Select an effect category and you will see a list of the individual effects. Select one of them and now the so-called permanent presets are displayed in the third column. These are suggested settings for the individual effects. These serve as inspiration and as a starting point for editing. At the top, you can load type or default settings. Default settings are neutral basic settings for the corresponding effect. Load type is interesting if you have loaded an effect and then want to compare different effect types, for example with a delay. Let's say you've loaded the dual delay and made the desired settings. If you now want to listen to these settings, for example with a 2-tap delay, simply select this type and choose Load Type in the next column. Now you can hear how the parameters you set before will sound with this effect type. With Load Type, only the new effect type is loaded, while the common parameters such as delay time, note value, feedback, mix, etc. are retained and are now used for the new type. This allows you to use different effect types with identical values, without regret or loss of parameter settings. If you want to move the effect to another position in the signal chain, tap on the module, hold your finger on it, and drag the effect to the desired position. You can also copy the effect with the current settings into another effect module, or even into another rig. You can do this with the copy function, which you'll find on the far right of the context menu. That's the round icon with the 3 dots. In a similar form, it's also called the menu button or burger menu. If you tap on it, a window with various functions will appear. Select Copy, and then the effect with the current settings is copied into the clipboard. Now you can select a new rig using the arrows next to the rig name at the top. Then tap on the desired module in the signal chain where you want to place the effect. Then tap on the burger menu again and select Paste. Now the effect is copied to that module. The effect modules can be switched on and off with different gestures, either by tapping the effect module again or by swiping up or down. This also works when another effect module is selected. You can also switch the effect module on and off with the power switch. If you have selected a module and want it to be activated in every rig with the same setting, simply tap on the lock icon. This is the lock function, which you can also activate on the profiler with the lock button. The corresponding module is now locked and will appear in each rig. This also works with the input settings. To ensure that your edited settings are not lost when you change rigs, you should save your rig. The 2 red buttons in the upper right corner are responsible for this. If you tap on Store Rig, the selected rig will be overwritten with the new settings. If you want to store a completely new rig with these settings, then tap on Store Rig as New. Enter the name for your new rig, then tap on Save, and the rig is saved with the new name. The original rig will remain unchanged. If you want to change the name of an existing rig, tap on the burger menu next to the rig name, and again a new window will appear. select Rename Rig, enter the name and tap Rename, then tap Store Rig, and now the rig is saved with the new name. If you want to make settings for morphing, you can also do this entirely in the Rig Manager without using a pedal or pressing the rig button on the Profiler stage or the remote. You have the Morph field for this with a small slider that gives you a visual representation of the pedal position. If the slider is all the way to the left, the bar is completely coloured red and the basic sound is selected. This represents the heel position of the pedal. If you move the slider completely to the right, the bar turns blue and the toe position is activated. This is the morph sound. To set the morph sound, move the slider completely to the right. Now change the parameters for the morph sound. The minimum and maximum values are shown with red and blue dots on the slider. If any parameters are morphed in an effect module, you'll see a red and blue dot beneath the effect symbol in the signal chain. To test the morph sound, you can move the slider to different positions to simulate the different positions of the morph pedal. You can also simulate the morphing process of the rig button by tapping on the red or blue pedal icon. Depending on which value for rise time and fall time is set in the rig menu, the status changes accordingly between the basic sound and the morph sound. Of course, you can also control the morphing as usual via the connected expression pedal on the Profiler or with the rig button. The morph slider in the Rig Manager will then change its position accordingly. If you want to clear all morph settings, you can do this with one keystroke. Go to the burger menu on the right and select Clear All Morphs. Now all morph settings are deleted. The same goes for any editing steps you have done with the selected rig since the last save. Again, you press the burger menu and then undo all rig changes. Then the rig will be back to the exact same state as when you last selected it. So far, everything has been edited in browse mode, but of course you can also edit in performance mode with the Rig Manager on the iPad. To do this, you have to select performance mode on the Profiler. Now one more bar is displayed, and in the line below the name, you'll see the individual slots of the performance. These can be moved just like the effects by tapping and dragging. You can use the burger menu next to the slot name to select various functions. Enter a new name, activate and deactivate the slot, move the slot to the left or right, and copy and paste the slot. All other settings of amp profile, cab and effects can be done exactly as shown before in browse mode. If you select another slot in the selected performance in the Rig Manager, the settings made in the previous slot are retained. If you want to switch to a different performance and you don't want to lose the settings, you have to save the current performance. This can be done by pressing the red area labelled Store Performance. You can change the name of the performance by tapping the burger menu next to the performance name. A new window appears and you select Rename Performance and enter the new name. Then tap Store Performance again, and now the performance is saved under the new name.